They say that a man who represents himself in court has a fool for a lawyer. But what of the man who invites Mark Steele to represent him in court? Does he have a fool for a lawyer, or is he being represented by Britain's most genius legal mind since the invention of law itself? That's the question that I, Reynard Wilson, will answer in this week's episode of Mind of Steel.
We've got a police officer who read the documents. It's one of the documents, my 5G expert statement. Now he's read it and he said it's a conspiracy theory document. Yeah. Well, what is a conspiracy? So conspiracies to do wrong are crimes. So he's admitted he's read it and it's conspiracy. He's then said it's a theory. Well, a theory is something that's substantiated by scientific fact. So the cop himself has admitted in a document that this conspiracy theory document he's read is, as a matter of fact, a criminal act that he has decided not to follow through with.
Well, you thought that was a joke question, didn't you? Brilliant legal mind or absolute idiot? I think we can all agree, having heard that little monologue, that Mark Steele's legal logic is impeccable. Mark Steele, in a rhetorical flourish, has proved that all conspiracy theories are in fact.
The CIA brought that whole conspiracy theory nonsense out as a way of them basically blocking people and basically labeling people as some type of lunatic. Well, unfortunately, I'm not a lunatic.
Oh, there you have it. The very notion of a conspiracy theory is itself a conspiracy theory invented by the CIA. And the proof, if you need any, is the sanity of Mark Steele. Because if Mark Steele is sane, then there is no such thing as a conspiracy theory.
Right, and unfortunately for the cult, right, I've already been proven in a court to be correct and to be truthful and to be an expert in this particular field. So consequently, they're stuck up a river without a paddle.
You better check your canoe before you criticize Mark Steele.
So you've got the potential of a weapon on your streetlight by your dumb council who illegally installed it against you and have got you to pay for it. Best trick in the book. Bring a weapon to people's streets, get them to pay for it, and then the defence industry don't even have to fund it.
Hey, defence industry, if you're going to kill me, go and pay for your own weapons. Right? Don't think I'm going to fall for the oldest trick in the book, where you get me to pay for a bunch of streetlights so that I could be murdered. That doesn't make any sense, right? Why am I going to do that? You go and do that.
Friday, 10 o'clock, Newton Cliff Marks. Right, I'm going to be in Durham Crown Court on Thursday. I haven't got the time yet. But
we're not entirely sure what Mark is going to be doing in court. We don't believe that he is on trial himself. So it may be that he is representing or attempting to represent one of his zany friends. But last time Mark did that, it didn't go so well. Mark attempted to represent his dear friend Kate Shemirani, we refer to her as the toxic nurse, in her case against the Nursing and Midwifery Council. The end result was not so good for Kate. She was struck off the register of nurses in the United Kingdom. She's no longer allowed to call herself a nurse. I wonder if this business that Mark has in Durham on Thursday is going to go much better.
Now this case, this harassment case, could go all the way to the High Court, where I'll show that this was a crime. So let's say he gets found guilty in the mags, which is a high probability, right? Well, then we'll appeal it to the Crown. We'll then appeal it to the higher courts. We will go right the way to the top in relation to this case, right?
Well, I think we can all admire Mark's resolute determination to fight this all the way to the top. He's going to argue this case in front of the House of Lords if needs be. And he's not going to let the fact that he's had absolutely zero legal training or any education past the age of 16 get in his way. No, no. Mark is taking this to the top.
Right? The exposing of criminal acts, right? You're protected under the judicial laws and acts of Parliament.
Mark has come up with one weird trick that will allow his friend to get out of jail free. It's a perfect scheme, like every one of Mark's schemes, and I'm sure it can't possibly fail.
Section 3 of the Harassment Act specifically states you have a defence if you're either detecting or exposing crime.
Mark's friend Michael, who Mark is going to attempt to defend at Durham Crown Court this Thursday, is innocent because he was exposing a crime. What a brilliant legal strategy this is. Why don't mainstream lawyers come up with stuff like this? I'll never know. This is why, if you need to be defended in a court of law, you're far better off going to Mark Steele than any barrister or QC or expensive lawyer that money can buy. No. Go straight to Mark, because he knows how the British legal system works.
The other element, you've also got Section 3 of the Criminal Justice System Act, right, which states you can use what's called a self-defense to stop a greater crime. So no matter what crime it is, it could be murder as self-defense. There's a self-defense element to every single crime committed. Okay.
So if I've understood this correctly, Michael, the man that Mark Steele will be attempting to defend, is going to plead that his harassment of a bunch of teachers at a school somewhere near Gateshead was actually an act of self-defense, and that he was defending himself against a far greater crime, possibly even the crime of murder. When you put it like that, it sounds like the British legal system has been persecuting an entirely innocent man.
That judge in that case is a victim. They're the same as the victim. The prosecutor on their side is a victim. They've all took the shot, by the way. They all marked the die, every one of them. Now think how powerful that's going to be when we get that information out into the public.
I really do hope that Mark uses this defence in court. I want him to stand up and say, "Judge, you have been a victim. You too are going to die by 5G. And the judge will immediately hear Mark's eloquent defence of Michael, the man who has been so terribly accused of harassing school teachers in the Durham or Gateshead area. And he's going to strike down his gavel and say, "Case dismissed. The real culprits in this case are the Prime Minister, his cabinet, and all of the MPs, and they are the true criminals, and they shall be sentenced to death." Ha 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 ha! And at that moment, Mark Steele wakes up and realizes that everything that preceded that moment was in fact a dream. But then he checks his diary and realizes that he will be in court on Thursday. So was it a dream, or was it a premonition?
So anybody gets nicked by any coppers, remember, first thing you ask them, have you had the shot? If they say, why, what's that got to do with it? You tell them that's an antenna.
Well, I'm sure that's a brilliant thing to say if the police arrest you. Simply point to them and say, "Have you had a vaccination?" And if they look at you like you're an insane fool and decide that instead of taking you through the normal prosecutorial process, you must be insane, and therefore they section you and send you to the nearest mental health facility, well, I'm sure that's just part of Mark Steele's brilliant plan.
It's part of the 5G Azure listening network. It's audio able, and consequently, in a recording under pace, the equipment that's doing the recording has to be approved by the chief constable. And you say to them, has the chief constable approved the listening device you've been injected with?
And that would be a perfect thing to shout as two strong police officers manhandle you into a police van and escort you to the nearest mental health facility, where a bunch of kind nurses will inject you with a mild sedative and escort you to a private room where you can calm down and thank your lucky stars that you haven't had to give a statement in front of Bill Gates and the Azure cloud network. Brilliant.
I mean, we might even ask the question in the next up and coming court cases to find out about recordings in courts. You're not allowed to record in a British court. It's actually an offence. So every single person in that room, right, who's actually been injected with a nanometamaterial antenna or recording on behalf of Bill Gates.
Touché, British legal system. Mark Steele has outwitted you all yet again with his insightful mind and profound knowledge of the law and its many applications. Wow, hasn't today been a wild ride? We've learnt so much from the mind of Steele, like the fact that conspiracy theories are themselves a conspiracy theory that was dreamt up by the CIA to stop people who aren't conspiracy theories telling things that aren't actually conspiracy theories. Who'd have thunk it? The whole world is entirely upside down. And we learnt about the best trick in the book, which apparently is to make the defense industry make you pay for the weapon which the defense industry will use to kill you. If you are like me and demand fair play, we want murderers to buy their own weapons and stop being a bunch of freeloaders. And what about Mark's brilliant legal strategy, which no doubt is going to be 100% effective in his defense of Michael, the poor man who has been accused of harassing some teachers in a nearby school? Mark is going to use his brilliant rhetorical flourishes to grind that court case to a halt by revealing that every single person who has taken a vaccine is in fact a recording device that is wirelessly connected to Bill Gates's Azure network. I'm sure that the court will just take that claim on face value and won't demand any evidence at all, because as we've established, Mark Steele is an expert. We can only hope that Michael's case prevails and that he is not punished for harassing all those teachers, which I'm sure he did for a very good reason. I will be sure to get back to you as soon as I possibly can with the urgent news of this court case. But until then, I must now say goodbye and hope to join you for another episode of Mind of Steel. Hey, thank you for watching this episode of Mind of Steel. If you want to see more Mark Steele, there's plenty more on my channel. I've made so many videos and they're all waiting for you to watch. Just search for Mind of Steel on YouTube and please click on the bell to subscribe, because the more people watching my videos, the more I'm going to make and the more annoyed Mark Steele will be. That's just the way it works. It's the circle of life and I want you to be part of it.